What's up, folks? Happy Thursday. BJ Rains with you from Bronco Nation News. Mike Prater, KTIK 95.3 FM, The Ticket. He is in the ropaint.com studios there back in downtown Boise. Mike, it's Thursday. It means it's time to catch up for our weekly chat here. How's it going, my man?
Good, brother. How you doing? It's always good to be here with you on a bright early. I guess 9 o'clock's not too bright and early, but for us sports guys, sometimes 9 o'clock's early, but fired up and ready to go. It's a big couple of days. Lots of news today, lots of news this weekend. Life's good, BJ.
Just happily you're wearing the BJ Rains hat, right? The R, is that for Rains?
The R stands for, I'm not sure if it stands for ropainting.com or ropaint.com, but or Rains. But let's go with Rains today. I like that.
Well, we'll go Rains. We'll go Andy Rowe. We appreciate all the free swag that Ropaint has sent us. They are proud supporters of both our ventures here, so we appreciate their support. Yeah, a lot going on. And you said the picture's out there. Brian Harsin. Let's talk Brian Harsin first. He has arrived at the SEC coaches meetings today, and we'll see if he, I doubt, does any kind of media availability, but today's going to be a circus, I guess, and I guess he's not getting fired today if he's at the meeting. So what do you make of where things stand with former Boise State coach Brian Harsin, Mike?
Well, Brian Harsin today is just like you and me, just shows up for work early in the morning. And yes, the Twitterverse is out there stalking Brian Harsin, and there's pictures of him getting his credentials and checking in the back door and going into these SEC coaches meetings in Alabama. There's pictures of reporters out there kind of hovering in the bushes. I saw a picture of one guy writing a story on his laptop in the garage next to his car. So, yeah, the SEC Wolves have united in Alabama, and the coaches there as well. But, yeah, as you said, Brian Harsin, as of right now, has a job. I think we all thought it was going to be very convenient if they were going to fire him before this meeting. But you know what? When there's an investigation going on, there's nothing that's convenient. And you're not going to make a decision just because he has to show up at a meeting at 9 o'clock in the morning if your investigation isn't done. Obviously, this is a very delicate, very sensitive, very complicated situation with probably not a lot of facts, a lot of he said, a lot of she said, and trying to get to the bottom of that story. So I think it's going to take some time. I personally got sucked into thinking that something might happen today. I got up early this morning to watch a little Olympic hockey and to chase Brian Harsin, thinking I would see a press release, but it didn't happen. And if he's at these meetings, I don't think it's going to happen. It would be a pretty bad thing to fire your coach right there in front of all of his peers. That's a bad look. I don't think it'll happen today, BJ.
Well, hold on. Okay, so let's clarify there. You're saying it's not going to happen today. Do you still think that, I mean, as we sit here right now, given the facts, what are the chances you think Brian Harsin is coaching week 1 next year for Auburn?
Oh, I'm going to go 49%. And I think you just said the right thing, given the facts. I don't think we know enough facts right now, except for the he said, she said part. So it seems like it's inevitable. And everybody in the South, where the vultures are a lot stronger here than they are here in Boise, Idaho, everybody in the South is saying that he's not going to survive this job. Strong columns suggesting that it's over. Strong columns saying that we're going to be delaying the inevitable if we don't get rid of Brian Harsin now. I think the damage is so severe that I don't know if Auburn has a chance. But as we've talked about all week, the leadership at that university is poor. There's a transition with the president. The athletic director really doesn't have a lot of strength on campus. If he fires Brian Harsin, it's indicative of him, and he may lose his job. If he keeps Brian Harsin, he may be able to keep his job. It's very, very complicated. Plus, and you know it as well as I do, BJ, let's not forget the Brian Harsin factor. That dude is going to dig in his heels. That dude is going to fight. I even have a feeling if they came to him and said, you're done, and we're going to give you this $18.5 million to walk away, of course, he'd have to sign some non-disclosed paperwork. I think he'd say, screw you. Let's go to court. We're going to fight. That's who Brian Harsin is.
What'd you make yesterday of the document that came out that apparently, like just yesterday or the day before, the Auburn officials created a new policy that allows you to fire someone for cause for not complying with the investigation. And so he's there in Mexico or wherever, and apparently was supposed to come back earlier, decided, you know what, heck with it, I'm staying an extra day on vacation. And all magically this document shows up in the Auburn legal system dated like the day before. And so they just created this. It didn't mention football, didn't mention Brian Harsin, but obviously they were trying to get a legal document in place. And I think a lot of people thought that was going to lead to his firing.
I thought that was very, very weird. And again, welcome to the SEC, where they do things just a little bit differently because apparently it means just a little bit more. And yeah, I thought that was kind of weird. I saw some reporters say that it was kind of a dog and pony show, that there's already language in his contract where he's supposed to cooperate. This made it a little bit more clear. This kind of gave it a little bit more muscle. Yeah, I mean, if if you're employed with the university or employed with anybody under contract, you have to do what you're being told. And so in this particular case, I think that they just had to, maybe some lawyer told them they had to clean up the legalese a little bit, but I don't think that's going to make any kind of difference. It just kind of shows maybe the mindset of where Auburn is right now and what they're thinking.
So when I was at student at Kansas, it was during the Mark Mangino era, and he was kind of getting pushed out the door. It was a similar thing. The AD didn't like him, and it was kind of a witch hunt. And so once they leaked there was an investigation into his his coaching styles and things like that, all of the reporters would go and try to talk to former players and get people to say bad things about him. And then it became kind of a witch hunt, and publicly he was getting crucified by all these former players, and he had no chance. And you're seeing some of the former players coming out and saying that he treated them like dogs and all this kind of stuff. But we haven't seen a ton of that. We've seen some players come out and support him. I guess, can he survive this? I mean, can he function if he's not fired with all this publicity, all this stuff that's out there, all the players that have transferred, the coaches that have left? I mean, you mentioned, the point of no return. I mean, are they better cutting their losses, or is there a path for Brian Harsin to actually still make this work?
I think there is a path to make this work. I mean, he still has 60, 70 football players, whatever it is. He's lost 20. That's a big number. But if you're one of the 60, 70 that have stuck around, plus the incoming players, you like Brian Harsin. And there's a group of people out there that like Brian Harsin. We've had two former Boise State players on Idaho Sports Talk this week. Jeremy McNichols and John Bates both came on. Glowing reports for Brian Harsin. Loved him. Not everybody likes a Brian Harsin, but certainly there are certain groups of people that like to thrive off that kind of mentality. So I think that there is a path. He's got most of his coaches in place. Everybody that's there, or most everybody that's on his staff, followed him from Boise. They know who Brian Harsin is. They know the Brian Harsin way, and they're going to stick with Brian Harsin. He's going to have to come up with a couple more coordinators and shore up that coaching staff, but that's not a big deal. It's a little weird, but it's not that big of a deal. And then he just goes to work. He puts his head down, spring ball, summer, football in the fall. I mean, I think if Brian Harsin if Auburn decides he's going to stay, there is a path, but then there's the football schedule in front of him next year. Even if he does survive this offseason, I think going into next year, he's on the hottest of hot seats, BJ.
Well, you mentioned two guys that were glowing about him. I don't know publicly if you're going to get too many that would speak out negatively, but just from private conversations with a lot of players, and I'm sure you've had plenty too, Mike, there's no middle ground. Players either loved Brian Harsin or they couldn't stand him. And if you were one of his guys, and usually it was the prominent players that had no problem with him and loved him, but I talked to plenty of players, and I'm not trying to break news here or be controversial, but there were plenty of players that just his personality didn't mesh theirs. He was a no-nonsense guy, and obviously the results speak for themselves. They won games, and I think if you do win games, you put up with some of that stuff, and you don't worry about it. But in the SEC, Mike, when you go 6-7, maybe some of the players aren't seeing the benefits from some of the ways they're treated and things like that.
I agree, 100% agree, and I've had those same experiences. There are plenty of players out there who do not like to be around a Brian Harsin type or that kind of an alpha male, or frankly, just he's a jerk at times. He's got a little bit of jerk in him, and let's just call it what it is. He can be a jerk. He needs some polish as a people guy, and maybe that's what comes out of this. Maybe this is a little bit humbling. Can you imagine walking into a room of SEC coaches in February and just they all know, they're like looking at you because you got that big ugly wart on your face, and they all understand.
Oh, I'm sure Nick Saban, all those guys are enjoying the heck out of this.
Oh, absolutely, they're enjoying the heck out of it. And even a Brian Harsin, Mr. Cocky, Mr. Confident, Mr. Screw You, Mr. I'm Brian Harsin, that's got to hurt as a human being to walk in that room. That's got to be a little bit humbling. Maybe he fixes that. Maybe he talks that. Maybe he goes that route with his bosses as he's talking to them over the next couple of days. I'll work on this. I'll work on that. Heck, let's get his wife involved. Maybe she needs to work on his personality just a little bit.
Rudy says, I can hear Mike Leach giving him crap right now. He said,
that would be fun to watch.
Randy Stevens, most Capital Eagles are jerks. We're getting some local high school crime here coming in. But so final thing before we switch topics, your gut feeling. I know you said 49-51. So your one-word answer is Brian Harsin coaching week 1 next year.
No.
Okay.
No.
I'm
going to go on the record.
I tend to agree with you on that. And I will throw this out there, I guess, just because this is what we do, but you're already getting the people saying a year from now when Tim Plow's hired that Brian Harsin can be Boise State's offensive coordinator again.
But I'm not sure Brian Harsin and Andy Avalos are on the same page kind of people. Let's just leave it at that.
Hey, don't forget, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. And this is both YouTube channels. Make sure you subscribe to the Bronco Nation News channel as well as the KTIK channel. It's a brand new channel that KTIK started, and JP's working on some things. And so they're trying to build that up as well. Both of us are here. So please subscribe to both the Bronco Nation News and the KTIK YouTube channels. It's very easy. You just go on YouTube, you search for it. And in our case, with the live shows and stuff we're doing on the pre and post game shows, you can go on your smart TV right there after the game's over, before the game, go to the YouTube app, and then just type in Bronco Nation News, and it's very easy to find. And you can do it that way. Hey, quick shout out as well, United Commercial Insurance, the best in business insurance. It's a local company that can write policies in 44 states around the country, whether it's general liability insurance, workers' comp, professional liability insurance, you name it, they can get it going for you. If you just started your business or if you've been working for decades, United Commercial Insurance offers competitive rates and great service to help manage your business insurance needs. United Commercial makes it easy for you. Let's keep it on football for a minute because I haven't gotten your thoughts, Mike, on Kellen Moore. Looks like he has missed out on this coaching cycle. Is Kellen Moore, is his stock lower right now as an NFL head coach than it was a month ago, or what do you make of him missing out on this cycle?
I think there wasn't a good fit for him. There wasn't a good fit for the teams that were talking to Kellen Moore. I think Kellen Moore came through this process a heck of a lot smarter about it than he was before. You know, Dan Hawkins used to always say, I'll never turn down an interview because every interview is an opportunity to get smarter. Every interview is an opportunity to get better. Every interview is an opportunity to dive into somebody else's brain. And I think Kellen Moore came out of this process better prepared for the process. Is he a better head coach at this point? No. Does he have to be a better offensive coordinator? Let's go back to work and figure that out. I think it worked out the way it was supposed to work out. I didn't like any of these fits for Kellen Moore. I don't think that Kellen Moore needs to be impatient. The NFL is a league of impatience, and Kellen Moore strikes me as a little bit different. Not that he had choices in this matter. I don't think he was ever even closely given any kind of a job offer. So I think he just kind of went through the motions, did what he had to do, knowing he had this great security blanket. BJ, why would you leave the Dallas Cowboys unless you had the perfect fit? Why would you go to somebody like Jacksonville for a 3-year rebuilding job that you have about a 10% success rate? And I don't care who Kellen Moore is or what he's done in the past. The NFL eats Kellen Moores alive all the time. There's plenty of Kellen Moores that have been eaten alive by the NFL. So I think it's just go back to the Dallas Cowboys, do what you do. You got plenty of work there to take care of some business, and stick with the Dallas Cowboys family. They'll take care of you.
Now, you had somebody on your show, though, and I'm sorry I forget the name, but he had mentioned that if Mike McCarthy's out next year, it won't be Kellen Moore. It'll be Dan Quinn, or it would be Sean Payton. And then when we had Johnny on Monday talking about the cap issues and the space they have there, Johnny's under the impression that they're going to have to maybe take a step back offensively. They can't keep all their weapons, and that so maybe that would have been the reason if you try to get out before things go down. What do you make of him coming back in the situation in Dallas where it might be hard to keep a Cedric Wilson and Cooper and all these weapons, and maybe his stock won't look as good if they can't do as well offensively next year?
Welcome to the NFL, where you have to regurgitate your roster all the time. And I think they're going to lose a couple of top wide receivers. We had Norm Hitchkiss from the Ticket on. That's who we had on. Norm Hitchkiss from the Ticket, longtime Dallas area Hall of Fame radio broadcaster, and he did say that it would be Peyton, it would be Quinn. He doesn't think Kellen Moore has any kind of future as the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, that sounded kind of weird, but he does have a future, but it's in line with behind those two. Cedric Wilson might be wide receiver 2. I don't want to go wide receiver 1 in this particular case because Cedric Wilson's good, but he's not wide receiver 1 for anybody in the National Football League. So they're going to have a roster hit. They got to shore up some offensive line stuff. They got to deal with a little bit of that defense, and they do have some cap issues, but I think you can make things happen. I don't think they're that far off. Johnny's really into the cap issues. Plus, he's always looking for excuses because he's been trying to get Kellen Moore a job for 2 years now.
Well, he just likes to name drop that he has his number and that he texts with them. So yeah, that
Exactly.
Nathaniel saying Dallas is a great fit for Kellen Moore. Rudy chiming in, and I think this is a good point we got to remember too, Mike. He says, I don't think Kellen's on some time frame to become a head coach. Smart to wait. What is he still, like 34, 35 years old?
Exactly. Patience. Kellen Moore, you're a smart dude. Practice patience because nobody else in the National Football League practices patience. So Kellen Moore, thank goodness. But, I would imagine if he got a job offer, he would have taken it regardless of the team. And maybe there was a chance there in Miami for a while. And I don't think I'd be overly scared with that ownership issue in Miami. This is Kellen Moore would be a football issue and he would go off and fix it. But I just think it's time. It's time for one more year and let's see what happens next year.
Well, if you and Johnny might get into too many arguments or whatever, and you decide that the show's not for you, I got the new career move for you, man. If you want to get into the trucking industry, 1,000 people a day are deciding to become truck drivers, getting into the trucking industry. TCS, Transportation Compliance Service, taking care of many of them, whether it's the LLC, the tax ID, the DOT number, the overweight permits, you name it, they can do it. There's 20 steps, things that need to be done to get out on the road, and many that try to do it themselves end up going out of business. TCS, it's a local company here in Meridian, but it's a national company. They help 50 to 70 new accounts a day, folks all over the country. Again, if you're thinking about getting into the trucking industry, they can get you out on the road towing that first load in no time. There's the information on the screen, transcompservice.com. All right, let's talk Boise State basketball. The comments are flowing in here, Mike. They've had a couple days off, a rare break for them, getting ready for Friday's game against UNLV. Randy Stevens chiming in. 2 big men's basketball games this weekend. Let's pack the house. Obviously, the Sunday time's not ideal, 2 o'clock right before the Super Bowl. Friday night, it's 9 p.m. I guess at least it's a Friday night at 9 p.m., not a weeknight, but you're probably hurt a little bit by that. Maybe. Do you think a 9 p.m. Friday game will hurt too, or is that because it's a Friday night, you're okay there?
I think it's a little bit of both. It's definitely going to take a hit. I mean, I know people that have backed out. I've talked to a couple people that have backed out. I have to make a decision to my household, whether or not we're going to go or not. I'll watch it on television for sure. I might be there. Sunday is definitely an out for me. So I keep thinking that Leon Rice, man, I feel bad for him. And I know I beat him up all the time, but I kind of feel bad for him about this year's schedule. We went through that whole, 6 weeks where they had 2 home games and they were both on Tuesday nights. And now we get finally into the meat of the schedule. And we had San Jose State in a dud of a game last weekend. That wasn't Leon Rice's fault, but it just happened to be on the schedule. 9 o'clock next home game, 2 o'clock Super Bowl Sunday next home game. Dude can't catch a break with this schedule, but I can sense the momentum. I know we were all happy with what we saw against San Jose State, 10,000 plus, balcony open. I think we're going to get 8 to 10,000 on Friday night against UNLV. And if you can get 8 to 10,000 people in a building at 9 o'clock on a Friday night, I think that's spectacular. Nobody should worry about that. Saturday or Sunday's Super Bowl one-off at 2 o'clock against Colorado State, potentially the best team in this conference, and certainly my favorite player to watch in Roddy. I think that's going to take a little bit of a hit. People have to make decisions, and you're going to make decisions whether you want to make the Super Bowl an all-day thing or kind of split it up. And a lot of people like the Super Bowl as an all-day thing.
Well, if 2 o'clock is not a time that people are loving, just know that they were offered 8 o'clock after the Super Bowl. I was told that was an option that they turned down as well. That would have been even worse to play after the Super Bowl.
Yep.
So that they didn't get a lot of options. When you have these games made up, you got to find a way to fit it in.
Yep.
And there's only so many days on the calendar where both Colorado State and Boise State were available without having to move too many other games around. Could have maybe played Monday night and then kept the game Wednesday, moved the game to Wednesday with Air Force, but they are doing it on Sunday afternoon. And I think it's kind of building towards the following weekend, Mike, because the following weekend you get a 4 o'clock home game against Utah State. And so I think that should be a prime 4 o'clock Saturday, Utah State. And then the following Tuesday, 7 o'clock against San Diego State. So you get a Saturday 4 o'clock game, and then you get a Tuesday 7 o'clock San Diego State game back-to-back at home after you go to Air Force. So if they can kind of not stub their toe here moving forward, Randy's chiming in. Come on, Prater. Those wings will still be there after the basketball game.
It has nothing to do with that. It has nothing to do with the food. It has everything to do with, for many people, and myself included, Super Bowl Sunday is an all-day event. I have my habits. I have my routines. It has nothing to do with chicken wings. It has everything to do with the pregame show. I like to dabble with a little bit of the Phoenix Open golf tournament, which is a nice lead-in right into the thing. And I know I'm looking at national sports as opposed to a big local story, but, and people will adjust. Plenty of people will adjust. But I don't want to go to a basketball game at 2 and then hurry my ass home and get there 10 minutes late into the Super Bowl. That's what's going to happen.
Yep. The Super Bowl is kind of have the pregame show on at noon, have the food going. It is kind of an all-day type thing. And I get it, and I'm not super interested in this Super Bowl this year with either of these teams. I hate to admit that. So your Rams background, I get it. You're supposed to be that way. The fact that I'll probably get home about halftime isn't the worst thing in the world for me. But if I were a fan and I saw this, we had a comment on here, CSU's in town already. Why can't you move it to noon or 1? Maybe noon would have been a little better. I don't know. But that was for TV, for Fox Sports 1. They wanted to get on TV. The only times they actually moved another game up an hour so they could play this. Yeah, the Nebraska-Iowa game, they had to call Nebraska and Iowa and get them to on a week's notice to move a game 1 hour just so it could fit into the TV window.
That's what's going on behind the scenes. I didn't realize there was a Monday option. I probably would have picked the Monday option, but 2:00 as opposed to 8:00. Everybody worked hard to get this done. The TV executives, people in the Mountain West, Boise State opponents, everybody else took care of some business. It is what it is at this point. And plenty of people will show up and plenty of people won't.
Well, I will say this though, Mike. I bet it'll be one of their more watch games of the year. I'll tell you that because the attendance may not be great, but if you're just a basketball fan or someone at home, certainly you'll flip on that game if you're a gambler or whatever. That's going to be one of the only sporting events in the country going on right before the Super Bowl. So I bet you, and maybe folks don't want to hear that, but the ratings and things like that will certainly probably be pretty good for the game itself. We have a member of the Degenhart family. Always appreciate Patty coming in. Can't wait to watch the games in person. So she'll be there for that. Rudy's saying need ACOT at full strength. Maybe not for UNLV, definitely for the Rams. Just this team in general, Mike, they had the tough loss at Wyoming. As we talked about the next day, you already had some people saying, oh, here we go with the slide. I thought it was perfect that it was San Jose for the next game to kind of get right back on track, get the winning, get the momentum going back again. And now this kind of gauntlet of a stretch comes. You've got UNLV. And, UNLV is a quality team. It's a quad 2 game. They're ranked 101st now at KenPom. I mean, they're no sleeper of a team. Bryce Hamilton, 21 points a game. They've got Royce Ham. They've got some other guys. Donovan Williams, 14 points a game. I mean, they went into all you need to know, Mike, is they went into Fort Collins and absolutely crushed Colorado State at Colorado State.
Yep.
And Bryce Hamilton had 45 points in that game. So, I mean, they're sitting there in the middle of the pack, and they're part of the reason the Mountain West is so good. When they're your 6 or 7 seed, and they're a game that they could, go into Fort Collins and beat a top 25 level Colorado State team, there's very few gimmies in this league, and this certainly isn't one of them. You'd like to think at home that Boise State can take care of some things, but by no means is this going to be any kind of a blowout gimme type game on Friday night.
No, not at all. But I do expect Boise State to win that game, and I expect them to win that. And I expect Boise State to – it's hard to say with Colorado State, and I don't know anything about Acott and his injury. Obviously, he didn't play last, and it sounded like he could have played. Why not get the dude some rest and big stretch coming up? I like the way this basketball team is playing now. If you only can play 7 or maybe 8 players at a time with the depth issues that they have, I think they're squeezing every ounce that they can out of these guys. Everybody that, Max Rice is starting to play well, or at least he was always playing well. He's starting to shoot much, much better. There's other guys on this team that are getting their act together in terms of a more balanced game. Tyson Degenhart looks like he's ready to explode. Hi, Mom. How you doing? Looks like he's ready to explode, at any time. And he has been exploding. I love watching that guy play. So it seems like to me that this basketball team is playing well. It's doing what it has to do. Leon Rice is pushing all the right buttons. If they could sweep this weekend, BJ, that would be huge. It'd be huge for the fan base. It'd be huge for skeptical guys like me. It'd be huge for a lot of other people. Colorado State may not be the monster that we thought they were going to be at the beginning of the season, but with Roddy and the rest of that team, it's a very good team. And if Boise State sweeps this weekend, holy shnikes, that's a big, big accomplishment for this basketball team. I think maybe even a sweeper this weekend. And I know you've been saying this already, but I'm the late guy coming on board. If they sweep this weekend, they're in the NCAAs no matter what, BJ.
Yeah, they're getting closer. I mean, and I kind of gave them a 4-1 for the final 5 home games. So if they lose one of these, it's not the end of the world. They would just have to win the other ones, which is certainly possible. But if you can get through these 2 and make that 4-1 now a 2-1 in the final 3, you'd certainly feel good about that. I just watched Colorado State against Nevada the other night. Roddy had like 30 points. I mean, the dude's 6'6" or whatever, but he's posting you up. He's hitting threes. I mean, he is just a phenomenal player that I'm going to be very curious to see. I saw Mike Schmitz, one of the ESPN NBA draft guys, was actually in Reno scouting him, and so I'm curious what his pro prospects will be. He said he's one of his most fascinating players, moving forward. Go ahead.
Let me ask you a question then. I've always been curious about this, and it just clicked in my head. What are the pro prospects on this team for Boise State? What do you expect to happen with these guys?
I would say Emmanuel Acott is probably the best pro prospect. I mean, he's 6'8", and he's shooting 40+% from 3-point range. I think he's at least getting some looks. I mean, maybe in a couple of years, Tyson Degenhart becomes a guy you have to look at. If you look at the development of guys like Hutchison and Jessup over the years, I mean, that's one thing Boise State can do is take those, 1 and 2 star guys and kind of recruit, in 3 or 4 years, turn them into 3 or 4 star guys. And certainly Degenhart looks like he's got a path if you continue him in this progression for 3 or 4 years. But no, I think Acott, I mean, just because of his size, I think he's a fascinating guy. I think if he came back for another year, he could potentially have another huge year and help his stock, but he's also, 22 or whatever already and might be ready to start playing pro ball. I think Key Jab probably gets a look, maybe overseas of some sort or G League. I don't think he's an NBA player, unfortunately. Just maybe he'll prove me wrong. But no, I think Acot, if you had
European guy,
huh?
Armouche, a European guy.
You know what? I wanted to talk about him because somebody asked about him. Yeah, I think he's and there's certain stuff I can't say and can say, I guess. I got to be careful with what I say. But I think before it was a done deal that there was no chance he comes back next year. And let's just say maybe that's not as strong as maybe there's some outside factors that could weigh into Mladen Armouche potentially deciding to wanting to play one more season here. He does have the COVID year left. So we'll see what happens there. But Scott saying Armouche needs to get back to being dominant in the paint. The last 5 games, and we only have about 3 minutes left, Mike, but the last 5 games, he's still at 19 fouls and 17 points. Yeah. So how do you get Mladen Armouche going? Got to keep him on the court. That's number one.
Yeah, I mean, he said dominant, getting back to being a dominant scorer. Yeah, but the first thing you got to do is take care of your body, take care of the fouls, take care of your discipline, and when you're playing defense. And he had a rough stretch there against some pretty dominant players in the Mountain West. So against San Jose State, where there wasn't a more dominant player inside, he was able to do a little bit more of what he had to do. So he's just got to be smarter. He's got to be smarter about his body. He's got to be positioning. I'm sure Coach Rice and his staff are working on all that kind of stuff. Just be cleaning with your body, dude.
Yep, and you saw he has the suction cup things that a lot of the Michael Phelps and a lot of the swimmers made famous in the Olympics a while back. Helps with blood flow, the kind of cupping therapy, I think it's called. So he's obviously dealing with some sort of shoulder injury, which probably is playing into this. We had Nathaniel saying UNLV is a good team, should give us a bit of a fight, but Broncos will prevail. Rudy chiming in, ball movement, stop the over dribbling in the paint. That certainly would help. You have Cody saying, I agree, if we sweep this weekend, Colorado State will skyrocket us in the KenPom rankings. Yeah, it's a big weekend, certainly. If you can win both these games, that's going to help you out moving forward. I still think, actually, believe it or not, Mike, the Air Force game is very scary next week. They've played terrible at Air Force. Leon Rice got ejected there a couple years ago. They've lost. And you saw Utah State lose at Air Force already this year. It's just no fans. It's at altitude. It's just a sleepy thing where you're supposed to win by 15. I think that I would bet you if you ask Leon Rice out of the next 3 or 4 games which one scares him the most, he would confidentially tell you the Air Force game, because that's just one that just you want no part of at this point with what's going on. Armouche got to work on becoming a more consistent free throw shooter. That is part of what has limited him some. Now, here's someone that maybe wants to be on the marketing committee for Jeremiah Dickey in honor of the Super Bowl 56. How about $5.60 tickets to the game Sunday, Mike?
Not a bad idea. Not a bad idea. I guess anything could work, and Jeremiah Dickey's doing everything he can to get people into that building. So we certainly appreciate what he's doing there, and I think it's working. The Mountain West, by the way, is a parting shot for me. I'm so impressed with the Mountain West this year. I think that they might be sneaking, certainly 3, possibly 4, and maybe even pushing 5. I think this conference can get 5 into the NCAA tournament. It's a 7-team deep league right now. If you go down to Utah State, which might be one of the hottest teams in the league, BJ, and I know you know this as well as anybody, the Mountain West is a dominant league right now. This last month is going to be a blast to watch.
No, it is. It's really exciting to have all these teams in the top 50 at KenPom now. I mean, you're talking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 teams in the top 50.
Wow.
6 in the top 50 right now at KenPom. Boise State, again, the resume is looking good, but you go 1 and 2 in the next 3 games or something, and all of a sudden people are going to start to think a little differently. What do we got today on Prater in the ball game, sir?
We're working on a couple of things. We're still efforting Dante Dion from the Super Bowl. We've been in touch with the Rams. We're going to try to make that happen. We're going to go straight to our handicapping guru in Florida. Lee Sterling's going to come on and talk a little Super Bowl gambling. Big show tomorrow, though, BJ, including you at 4 o'clock tomorrow. Bronco Nation News Report right there on Idaho Sports Talk, 95.3 FM. You're going to come strong with a preview of UNLV, a preview of the weekend, and we might even talk a little Super Bowl.
Appreciate it, man. Always appreciate your time, and we'll be listening 3 to 6 today, KTIK.com, the KTIK app, 95.3 FM, 1350 AM as well. Have a good Thursday, sir. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, bud.
There he is, Mike Prater. We'll talk to you later, folks. Bronco Nation News, BroncoNationNews.com.
Hey!